Right. Hi there, neighbor.
Hello there.
JamesMCD here, back with my mom. You might remember her from the Love Simon review. Um, we just got out of Won't You Be My Neighbor. For those that don't know, this is the documentary about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which you grew up watching
I
Mr.
did.
Roberts, Mr. Rogers.
Shameless plug for your teacher.
Um,
Yeah, I did. I grew up watching Mr. Rogers, and I loved that show. Alrighty, let's
yeah, let's not do that. Um,
turn that off. Technical difficulties.
yeah. But yeah, so you grew up watching Mr. Rogers. I didn't. I've mentioned before on this
Poor
show.
deprived child.
I've mentioned before on this show that I was always more of a Thomas and Friends, Bob the Builder, Sesame Street kind of kid. I obviously eventually became aware of who Mr. Rogers was. And I before seeing this movie, I did watch like a few clips of his show like on YouTube because he's everywhere now. Um, so so I got a trailer for this documentary like several months in advance, and I was like, I mean, I haven't seen the show, but it still looks really interesting. I kind of want to check this out, and goddamn, if this isn't the best movie of the year, then it's definitely up there. I really really love this movie.
I was really impressed, and yeah, I did grow up watching him, but as a kid, I didn't. I mean, there was a lot of things about him that I didn't know. I didn't know he was an ordained minister.
Yeah, me neither.
I didn't realize, just how much he played into politics in terms of public television
Yeah.
and just how much how he studied child development, and that to me as a kid he was just the host of a kids TV show.
Yeah, and
So
and that's the really great thing about this documentary is it goes really well detailed into this guy's childhood, his psyche, the like various production like issues that the show went through, and the it shows him like in government, like talking to talking to people, trying to get them to give them the funding to keep this show going, and what he kind of did for children's television at the time, and is really interesting and really informative. I felt like I've learned so much more about this guy through this documentary, and I think some of the most interesting and also kind of really funny parts are when they're interviewing like different people from or from Fred's life, his wife, his various coworkers, his two sons and stuff like that. My favorite is the what was the guy that
I know the guy with the tattoos.
Yeah, the
I think
guy
he was
with-
one of the production assistants or something along those lines.
that was really funny. And it not only did it talk, or not only does the documentary go into detail about like the making of the show, it also goes into detail about Fred Rogers as a person, not just the host of the show, but as like an actual person. And it talked about like his many like feelings while making the show, and his like how it so basically on the show he would use like puppets like Daniel Tiger to like express certain like thoughts and stuff. And there's a part where his wife is talking about that, and basically says straight up that Daniel is Fred.
Mm-hmm.
So
Childhood Fred.
yeah, childhood Fred. And there are a lot of like short little animated segments that kind of like show how his childhood would have been like, which I really liked those, and I kind of wish there were like more of them. So
But I know that, like now that, or at least in the recent past, I'm not sure if it's still on. There was a spin-off called Daniel
Daniel Tiger's
Tiger's
Neighborhood.
Neighborhood, and
I
I don't know
I
what.
haven't.
I've never
I
watched
just
it,
know the
so
name. I haven't seen it either.
same. I've never watched it, obviously, because that would be a little weird.
I
But
mean, I don't know how. I mean, I still go back and watch old episodes of Thomas and
that's
Friends.
different.
So,
Reliving your childhood.
um, but yeah, and it just I don't know what else to say. I mean, like, it's just a really, really good movie. It's emotional, it's informative.
Hmm.
Everyone can get something out of this, even if whether you've seen Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or you grew up with it or you never heard of it in your entire life, you can still get something out of it.
And you can appreciate what he was trying to do and what he was trying to use that medium to accomplish. I think that was his. I mean, from what I got, that was his goal, was to be able to reach children through media in a positive way.
Yeah, because they mentioned this several times in the documentary. Is there were how he, as much as he like loved being the host of his show, he really hated television because of what it was like, because of what it was doing to like society and all the like violence and like brain numbing stuff that was in it. And of course we as kids were blind to that, but he didn't like appreciate what it was doing. So
And I mean, the documentary also, went on to explain how he dealt with those things, and he addressed them on his show. And even spoke to kids and said, if there are things on TV that scare you, you can turn it off. You can change the channel.
yeah.
And I don't think people, these days, kids are so just got their heads stuck in their phones or the TV, and nobody really tells them that. And if
Yeah.
they do,
Because they're
don't tend to listen.
yeah,
But
yeah, because the like parents mostly just rely on letting their TVs or their phones do their jobs and not showing much like responsibility and stuff. But not you though. You're perfectly fine. um and sort of keeping with that, like the messages, that's another thing it goes into, is like the messages in Fred's show were really, I I guess, kind of like revolutionary, and like something you wouldn't normally see in any type of kid show. I mean, obviously there are shows nowadays that like touch on little individual topics, but he covered all of them, and the great thing about it is he never talked down to children. He never he always discussed like certain things like death and divorce and assassination and all that sort of stuff. He explained it simply, but at the same time, like intelligently. He never talked down to anyone, which you really have to respect.
hmm overall, the movie was so well done.
Yeah.
And they even
Oh,
touched on some of the myths behind Mr. Rogers, about him being a Navy SEAL,
yeah.
and that he had tattoos, and that's why he wore the sweaters. And I think it was good that they touched on those, because there are so many things that you hear, and with the media being what it is, you never know what's true and what's not true, and
Yeah, and
so
it also doesn't just focus on like the positives of Mr. Rogers. It also goes into a lot of the controversy that he faced. Like towards the end of the film, it goes into like the various news like articles saying like, oh, Mr. Rogers is like people saying like, oh, Mr. Rogers is telling kids that they're all special and they don't need to do anything to prove that they're special, which is just bullshit. But and how like how basically he explains that no, that's not what I was trying to say. I mean, it means, you are special and you don't have to do anything like big and crazy to prove that. So I like that they didn't just go into, oh, this guy's amazing, this guy's great, because that would have been so easy. So any other?
No, I highly recommend seeing this movie. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can already.
I mean, I even stayed awake for the entire movie. At 10 o'clock at night. So
that was really impressive. I kept like looking over because that's the thing is like there have been so many movies that I've taken her to that she's fallen asleep through half of. So, but this one I could tell you were really enjoying because you were awake throughout the entire thing. And it's what time is it now?
Like midnight.
It's way past midnight. So we should both be in bed. And she managed to stay awake through this entire thing. So applause for you. Yeah. But yeah, I can't recommend this movie enough. I can already tell you that it's gonna make my top 5, possibly even higher, of the year. It's just such a well-made movie. It hits you in so many different areas, and even like I said before, even if you haven't seen the show or haven't even heard of who Mr. Rogers is,
well, then you're missing out, and I highly recommend you hit YouTube and watch.
Yeah, but like even if you don't know who he is, you can still get something out of this documentary. So I highly recommend seeing it. It probably won't be in theaters for much longer, so please see it while you can. What would you give it out of 5?
Oh, definitely 5. Absolutely 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5, definitely. So that about does it here. Thank you again, Mom, for joining us. How does Mr. Rogers usually close the show?
I'm not singing because that would be really bad.
I'll just have one of his songs in the outro. So thank you guys for watching. See you later.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?